Well, good evening. Welcome to the Theotek podcast, and we've got quite a interesting show for you tonight. Let me start out by introducing our regulars. We have Kevin Purcell from South Carolina.
Nope, North Carolina.
North Carolina. I never
We
can
ain't
keep
them
Carolina straight.
No Gamecocks in this house.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
How are you,
Different
Kevin?
types of barbecue sauce.
Different state than what I thought.
We're good. We've had rain, so the fires are gone.
Oh, good.
Oh my goodness!
Hallelujah.
Thank
That's
you.
always good.
Yes, we had some smoke. I mean, serious smoke in like this whole region. And for about a week, we would wake up in the morning and we could smell smoke in our house. That's how close it was.
Were you threatened with evacuation, Kevin?
No,
Okay.
we never were.
That other voice there is Wes Allen, coming from the great state of, where are you, New Jersey or Pennsylvania? I always get
I am in New Jersey, but I
You're in
am
New
a
Jersey.
Pennsylvania native.
That's what I get confused about. But
Yes.
yeah, you're in New Jersey. How are things going with you tonight, Wes?
We also have rain, and I saw for the first time ever crawling out of the Delaware River on the way home
A
tonight
flying reindeer.
a beaver.
You've never seen a beaver before?
I've never seen a beaver before. Much less, I'm trying to figure out what on earth a beaver is doing in the Delaware River.
Building a dam.
That ought to be rather interesting to watch. So
It was
I'm
there with the
looking forward to
flying
that.
reindeer.
It was there.
Exactly.
I actually got a picture.
Of
And
the flying
then
reindeer?
Yes, exactly.
Our
Blowing nose.
our guest panelist tonight, hailing from the great state of Georgia, is Mark Allison of Accordance Bible Software, one of my coworkers.
Yeah, hey
Give you
there.
applause.
Yay. My connection to you guys, Wes, my wife is from New Jersey, and I was born in North Carolina. And here in Georgia, we've had a lot of smoke too and a lot of rain, thank goodness. But I have no connection at all to Kentucky. Sorry, Rick.
It's all right. and I'm Rick Mansfield. So
Hi, Rick.
So we won't spend any more time on frivolities. We'll just jump right to Mark. You're going to tell us about Accordance 12, which was just released 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, pretty recent.
Yep.
And I got to thinking about it, Mark. Accordance 12 is a significant biblical number. You've got 12 tribes of Israel, and you've got 12 apostles. So does Accordance 12 have any, added significance to it?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you multiply 12 times 12, you get 144,000,
That's called a gross.
and it connects with Revelation, and we include the book of Revelation in all our packages. So there.
Are you
go.
guys implying that you could use Accordance if you want to be a part of the 144,000?
You can use Accordance throughout the apocalypse.
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay. Good.
Oh, well, tell us show us some of the new features, Mark, that are in Accordance 12, and you can kind of give us an overview. We may ask you questions as you go.
Yeah, definitely. Be glad to do that. Let me switch over to my screen here, and let's get it there. There we go. Switching to my desktop. Let's see here. And okay. Let's see. Can you all see my screen now?
We can.
We can.
Okay, excellent. All right, yeah, let me show you a couple of the, several of the new features. We have two that are particularly powerful. The two new features that I want to start talking about are stacks and paper. And both of these are new features that allow you to not only gather your research, but then present them in a paper format. So I'm going to start with stacks first of all. We have a new button on our toolbar, the Add to Stack button. It's actually a dual-purpose button. If you click and hold on it, you get the option to create a new stack or open.
I did not even know that, Mark.
I know. Trust me. We spent a long time trying to figure out how to. The best way to present this. We were trying to decide, do you have two buttons? Do you have one that's open stacks and another one that's add to stacks? And we ended up with this. So I think it flies in the face of Apple's user interface guidelines, but
Well, so do they.
yeah.
Can I ask a question? Why
Sure.
didn't you just put the downward facing triangle indicator
Well,
say stack?
because technically that indicates that it always is to be pressed and selected, whereas originally the button was just to click on to
Gotcha.
add to the stack. And then we thought, well, we also want to be able to open the stacks from that button. Originally, to open the stack, the only way to do it was to go to File and to go to New Tab and then to find your stack. And we figured most people aren't going to figure that out. So the option was either to have two separate buttons or to combine two different buttons into one button in a weird sort of way. So that's
I do like the press and hold, by the way. That
yeah,
works well.
I think as long as you understand that that's what's happening, it works well. But it is it may not be completely intuitive that that's what you need to do to create a new
It's
stack.
not intuitive because I did demos at ETS and SBL and didn't know about that little trick.
Yeah. So again, I don't know if there is a perfect way to achieve it. If there is, maybe in the next release of Accordance, we'll we'll figure it out. But for right now, that's what you do. So I usually just click and hold and create a new stack, or you can just go to File, because we consider this a user item, a user creatable item. You can go to File and go to User Files, and Papers and Stacks, new items of each of those can be created this way. So you can do that. So if I create a new stack, I'll give it a name. I'll just keep new stack. That'll be fine. And all you have to do from at that point is just select anything and click the Add to Stack button. Now you have the option to, in your preferences, when you click Add to Stack, to have stacks open in a separate tab, or to not open and to just be hidden until you decide you want to open up the stack. That's kind of how I have it set. But I can click on go ahead and open the current stack. And actually, I've got two things here because I selected it twice. If you want to delete something, you just click on the big X, and there you go. So stacks are just a way to collate all your research as you're flying through Accordance and looking for information.
And Mark, why is it called stacks?
Yes, good question. Because you're stacking information on top of each other. So if I triple click here on Heavens and I open up my whatever my default lexicon happens to be, I can select an item there, just click on the Add to Stack button. Let me close out of that.
That's not exactly the reason I understood why.
Oh, go ahead.
Stacks.
Help me out.
Because back in the 1800s when I was in school, we before computers, you would do research in the library, and they taught us this in English 101 in college, that you take these note cards. And you only have one fact, or if it's a quotation, one quotation on that note card, one note card per thing. And you would end up with a stack of note cards that you would then write your paper from that stack. And so we'd have stacks of note cards everywhere. And so my understanding was that this was named after that kind of idea, because you only have one idea in each particular item.
That's good. I like that. And as a matter of fact, that's what I'm old enough that I did that too. So lots of note cards for sure when I was writing papers. Yeah, that's good. So thank you, Rick. I learned something new.
Well, it's a back and forth here.
Yeah, good deal. And you'll notice they're color coded. So if I've got a yellow coding here indicating that this is coming from a text. In Accordance, we divide basically all our modules into two categories, either text or tools. So texts are all your primary sources, and tools are all your secondary sources. So it just color codes them that way. You can add your own user item. So I can click on that button and type in my own information, or just copy and paste from,
What do you see the new user item for? Like if you have something that is not part of your Accordance library, you're putting that information in there? Is that the idea?
Yeah, so I would probably use it for something like maybe a web search, and grab something from Wikipedia, being the
the
top
fountain
of the line,
of all knowledge.
yeah, exactly, research
Yes.
tool that it is. So there you go, and just add it in there.
Can you drag photos into user items?
Absolutely, yes. So if I come up here to research and I say, you know what, I want to look for an image and I want to look for it in my graphics tools, and I want to look for, I already did, let's see. Like that. Let's see if it likes that spelling. Nope, doesn't like that spelling. So Nicaea, let's do that one. Nope, doesn't like that either. So let's just look in all my tools and see what it finds. So I'm looking for images, so it's going to look in the caption field of images for tools. Let's see what it finds.
And tell us why you're searching for Council of Nicaea on this particular day.
I'm going to slap you in the face, Rick.
Are you?
Well, yeah, we are. There have been a lot of memes going back and forth on Facebook, I've noticed. With
oh my gosh, we should have done the Batman slapping Robin meme today.
Yes.
Here
Right.
comes Santa Claus. Here comes
Or, I'm all about giving out presents and slapping heretics, and I'm all out of presents.
Yeah.
That one.
That one's on my page.
Yeah, I saw that with Rick. That was good.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, today is the feast of Saint Nicholas. Saint Nicholas at the Council of Nicaea was so put out with Arius for his heresy that he punched him in the face, and they put Saint Nicholas in a cell. He was like banned because it was against the rules for any priest to hit anybody, which is probably
Much
a good
less
rule.
a bishop.
Yeah, and so he was there in that cell. They didn't know what to do with him, and in the middle of the night, Christ and Mary appeared to everyone and told them to let him back in. It was all good, as the story goes.
There we go. Good. So yeah, so it all connects. Here's an image, and you can. A keyboard shortcut that's really handy for adding something to a stack is Command Option K or Control Alt K if you're on a Windows computer. Because what I'm seeing right here is a preview of this image. And so if I click on the Add to Stack button, it's not going to work when I'm viewing the preview. I can click on this little arrow here and bring it into its own tab, and then I can click on Add to Stack. But if I have that preview, the easiest option is just Command Option K or Control Alt K, and then it adds it into the stack there and give it its own blue color coding. So you can see those kinds of things.
So that's an image. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can, with a little action button here, I can sort items in my stack by date and title, the type of module. Importance is if I hover over the title area, I get this little star, and if I click on that, that indicates it's important. I can copy items, so forth.
Well, and there are certain parts of what are we calling these individual things? Is it just an individual stack, or is it a?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the whole thing is a stack.
Yeah, I think it ought to be a card.
Yeah,
something like that.
Follows the metaphor. But anyway, but there are certain parts that are editable and certain parts that you cannot edit.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Pretty much any of the text information you can edit. You can add your own comments here.
I love that feature, by the way.
Yep. And I can...
so you can tell why it's significant, how you're going to use it, that kind of thing.
Right. It gives you the date that you added it to your stack. The bibliographic information is clickable, so I can click on it and go to that particular location, which is kind of neat. And let's see, I can rename it by clicking on this down arrow here on the tab if I don't like the name I have. Right.
But you can't edit the original content that you've copied over into it. Right?
No, that's correct. Yeah, it's not. It's like it's like you've written on a 3x5 card and in ink, and it's there for good. So, but you can, by the way, it puts it in your library. We have a couple new options, entries for stacks and papers. So there it is. And also it puts it in your documents folder. So whether you're on a Mac or a PC, if you'll have an Accordance files folder when you install Accordance, and inside there will be a new folder called stacks. And you can, email this to a friend, or share it in any way you want, and all they have to do is double click on it, and as long as they have the resources installed that are included in that stack, it should open up and work.
Are they? But they're not syncing yet, right?
No, I did talk to
That's
Joel,
coming, yeah.
our lead developer, and yeah, it's definitely coming.
Yeah.
This is definitely version 1.0. There's a lot of things that everybody wants to add that are going to be added in the near future, and Dropbox syncing is one of the obvious things
and definitely, please, oh please, oh please, this has to hit the iOS version soon.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about that before it was released, that this wouldn't be nearly as functional if it doesn't have feature parity in that sense with iOS devices, and they're headed that way. So definitely not yet. That's one of the things I appreciate though about Accordance, is that they'll come out with a cool feature, and they're not going to make you wait till version 13 to come out with the really cool stuff. They'll add those nifty new features along the way for free in the next year or so. I mean, before the next year, but but during the time where it's still free. So
Mark, can you do me a favor? Can you show me how you would use the stack information, and like how would you paste it into a user note or a user tool?
Yeah.
One of the things I'm particularly interested in is how you would paste it in and use the data as like a location link, if that's possible even.
Right. It's not right now at this point. It doesn't really integrate with user notes or user tools. It was designed primarily as an interface with Paper. And let me just talk about that real quickly. If I click on a new paper, we've got some templates here, and papers are cool.
Your screen's not sharing anymore. Your screen's not sharing anymore.
Gotcha. Let me look and see what's going on here. Okay. Let me go to. Okay.
We'll edit this
there you
data
go.
out.
Yeah, thanks. Good deal. Benefit of it not being live. Are you seeing my
yes, we are indeed
interface now? Okay, good. So with Papers, it's an outline-based format for creating papers, handouts, that kind of thing. I do a lot of teaching. I head up a school of ministry at our church, and so there are a lot of times where I'll have my own personal notes, and I want them to be different from the outline that I hand out to the students. This lets you create all kinds of different outline structures, from sermons, different types of sermons, practical sermons, inductive sermons, and so forth. Your own blank paper. You can create your own templates and create the structure. I'm just going to use a default one here. Can you see that? I wasn't sure if I was.
Just crashed again.
Okay. I think it wanted to see the interesting. There we go. How's that? Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. It was treating that dialog box as a separate window, and so when I closed it, it
closed the whole thing.
It closed the whole thing. So, so here's the basic outline structure of a paper. You have a title, and everything's editable. I can create new outlines by either just hitting enter, and I've got a new heading outline here. I can indent it and bring create a subheading, bring it back to a second level heading, and so forth. And I can bring my stacks by clicking on the little stacks icon over here on the far right. Click on that, it opens up the Stacks tab, and now I can just drag and drop any of these stack items into this area. And if it's an image, I can move these things around. So just by hovering over the item and getting the action menu, I can put the picture on the left, or picture on the top, and so forth. Also, any of these items within a paper I can create automatic scripture reference hyperlinks. So if I type in John 1:1 and just hover over it, you'll see down in the instant details palette down here at the bottom, I've got John 1:1. So that's kind of cool that it automatically does that, and open it up that way. So let's see, I can, the power of paper comes in the ability to display or hide the different contents. So I can say, just show me a summary of what I have, and not the content, and it does that. Or
and so maybe if this was a sermon, you would preach from that summary rather than
yeah,
the entire content.
absolutely, yep. Or I can say, show me my end notes, or my bibliography if I have any of that stuff. And actually, let's see, let's go to showing all of it. In that case, it'll bring in the end notes and the bibliography from everything I'm showing. So yeah, it's I can hide, I outline items or display them. I can again save it as from the action menu here, rename it, or save it as a template. It automatically saves. You don't have to save, and I can click on the little button here. Every 5 minutes it saves. So I haven't had it open 5 minutes yet, but it does versioning in that sense. So I can go back. And so every 5 minutes it saves it and adds it as an item in this drop-down list. I think up until an hour, and after an hour it saves it every hour, and then every day, and then kind of like the Macintosh time machine, saves things. So I love the idea that I can go back and see earlier versions of what I've been working on.
So Mark, are you finding yourself using this? Because I've played around a little bit with paper. I just don't see how it would fit into my workflow.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different ways I would use it. One is I was playing around with creating a prayer journal. And so I created just a blank template. And, you can say here, for example, hide the outline marker, and I can have this be January, and this be February. And again, I can make a template.
Oh, you can hide the outline marker.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can hide the outline marker.
I didn't ever know.
Also, if I go to display and set paper display, you've got a lot of cool options here. Endnotes and bibliography, you can say I want SBL or Turabian. We have a new bibliographic format called Simple, which just gives the name of the tool. But the outline markers here, I can change any of those really easily.
We actually aren't seeing that, Mark, because I think you shared one window instead of your screen.
Let me do that again, because I want you to see this. This is kind of cool.
Go ahead and share your whole screen, and then you just put that on your whatever space.
Unless you have something embarrassing on your wall.
No, that's fine. I just, okay, desktop, maybe that's what I need to do instead of the individual item.
There I am.
There you go.
Okay, there you are. So let's see now. Let me bring this up. Now are you seeing it all?
Go.
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Good deal. So we have different bibliographic citation formats for SBL and Turabian and Simple, and then the outline markers. So you can change it to be anything you want, just bullets or none at all, as you've seen. You can set your text and alternate text. So if you've got your primary text that shows up in your instant details is the ESV, well, if you're hovering over First Maccabees, that won't show up. So you have you set an alternate text that has some of the.
And what's the second alternate text used for?
Actually, that's a good question. Do you know?
No, I was hoping you got it.
I don't know either. No, I have no clue. Now, yeah, I honestly.
Well, but okay. Well, here's a use case. If you had something like the pseudepigrapha, so you get all your apocrypha, deuterocanonicals with your NRSV, but if you switched over to like, the pseudepigrapha.
Yeah,
you could put something like that there.
Yeah, that's good. Absolutely. So yeah,
it's basically for yet another corpus, and I see that everywhere.
The catch-all, apostolic fathers, something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
According to what kind of work you're doing.
Yeah, very good. And of course, you would make sure you click on Use as Default. Otherwise, it just applies to this instance of this window. So, yeah.
Wes, you're asking about use case. When I was doing the demos in San Antonio, I would tell people, I'd start listing. I'd say, okay, pastor writing a sermon, student writing a paper, professor writing lecture notes, and of course we've got templates for all of these.
Right.
If you're writing an article, if you're writing, if you're presenting a paper like at SBL or ETS, and I think for the pastor or for the professor with lecture notes, what you have there could be final form because you could preach or you could teach from that content, which again, I think will make it even more helpful when it's on the iOS version. But obviously, if you're, a student writing a paper, if you are going to submit an article somewhere, it's still going to have to go to another form. But I don't think that's too different from, we've had discussions on here before about using Scrivener or even writing. I do a lot of writing in Evernote where you're just writing and you're not paying attention to the margins or to a style guide or anything like that. You're getting the information down. And so to me, and Mark, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think it would be good for those uses.
Yeah, absolutely. And it hasn't been out long enough for me personally to start using it as part of my workflow for teaching. But I'm absolutely, as I create new material, I'm going to start using it because, as a teaching tool, to be able to just so quickly say, I want to see just I want to see nothing but the outline structure itself. I don't even want to see endnotes or the bibliography. And then you can print it. You can print it out directly from here if you want to. You can export it as an RTF file and bring it into Word, something like that. But
you can also print it as a PDF.
Yeah,
I think that would be the most useful. The RTF export to me is of limited.
Oh, well, actually, RTF is very important because that's what Microsoft Word reads and Mail reads.
It doesn't retain the style, so it has the outline, but it doesn't remain the outline.
It's interesting. At this point, it retains the formatting except the font information. So,
it doesn't remain in it. It doesn't recognize like a top level as like a heading 1. That's the thing that's going on.
Yeah, you're right. It won't use styles in the sense of the, you're right.
Right.
It doesn't do that.
So document structure doesn't translate into the thing. So if you're writing a major paper inside paper, that kind of is fun, and then export it out to Word, and you need something like a table of contents, well, you can't generate that automatically. You'd have to go through and reset all your top level headings and all your second level headings to the appropriate styles and then go through.
Yeah.
So because and to me, that's one of the limitations of paper, because the whole thing is designed to be just a structural content creator, and but you can't retain that structure in any other situation, and that's not just paper. That's one of the things that Scrivener needs to work on too, which is what their next version is going to come through. So I know it's possible. It's something that's going to have to be worked on in the future.
Yeah, I've been telling, I've been teaching a couple of webinars on these, on the new features lately. I think this is very much a 1.0 implementation, and there are going to be new features added. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't export out with the style information that you would want to generate those kinds of things in Word. So for a scholarly paper where you need properly, you need the footnotes in the footnote area and that kind of thing. There's going to be some limitations here.
But what was really interesting, you don't know how things like this are going to be received until you put it in front of people. And at ETS and SBL, both of these are academic conferences, reception was overwhelmingly positive towards stacks and papers. And I was almost seeing papers more as maybe like a preaching or teaching tool, but we had a lot of people that were just very excited about the potential for this and how they could possibly use it.
And I think it's so efficient to be able to move things from your stacks into your paper that it may be, even at this point, worth doing that and then exporting it out as an RTF and then creating the styles that you need there, just because it's so easy to grab all that information.
Can you copy from stacks and go into an external application?
Well, you can you can
So there's the
copy
copy,
the clipboard,
right?
sure, and bring it in that way. So yeah, let me open up Word here if I spell it right. Yep.
And I to stacks, I'm totally impressed with. I really love it. That was actually how I used to take notes. I didn't use note cards. I used to use a legal pad, and I would write literally page and just information on each line. And so
Yeah.
stacks is kind of like what I'm using.
So, and you may want to do something like that, where you could just, copy there and then paste directly from the stacks into Word, and that would work too. So,
all right, cool.
Yeah. Those are the two big features in version 12, but we have some other cool things. A lot of people don't realize that they may have been using. I know I used Accordance for quite a while and never took advantage of the analytics features, and so now we have an analytics button here, and there's some really cool new things you can do there. So if I do a search for love here, now I get the view analytics option right in the middle of my window. So instead of this, it used to be a little tiny bar graph button over on the right hand side, and most people didn't even know what it was. This is a little more front and center. So I can say, let's do a bar chart, and I can select Chesed and look at all the different ways that Chesed is translated within the text, and I can see over here that it's translated devotion one time in the ESV. Hold down the Shift key and click on devotion, and it's going to perform a search for that in a new tab. So now I see Jeremiah 2:2. So the analytics in version 11 were totally static. You couldn't do any of that kind of research on it.
I didn't know you could do that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And the shift click. I was doing demos for a few days before someone mentioned that to me. That might be something we want to put on like a contextual menu.
Yeah, I think so. As a matter of fact, I taught a webinar and told them, nope, there's no way to go from and then later on realized that there was indeed. So yeah, that's there needs to be a way to make that a little bit more clear. And that's just in an English text. If you go to the original language text, you can even do some really cool stuff. So PAO and go to my pie chart, and now I can see
oh, that's cool.
So the mood or whatever. Look at the different inflected forms, and this is going to it treats it a little bit different. So if I look at the different inflected forms, or actually, let's do this. Let's look at I don't know, not gender. Let's look at person. So if I look at first person for agapao, and now it's going to show me that there's indicatives and subjunctives in the first person. And so you can see here that what it's showing up in the top of the tab area. So I'm looking for agapao anytime that's in the first person and in the indicative. And again, I can hold down the Shift key, and now I've performed a search for agapao in the first person when it's
That's
just
really
an indicative. Cool. Yeah. So
notice that it fills it in there in your search bar.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's really nicely done, and that's in a new. It opens up like a new search tab.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
so your old search is still there. You haven't messed with it, and for a long time Accordance users, they may be like, well, that's fine, that's easy to do. But a lot of Accordance users, never realized that, okay, the @ symbol connects two different ideas, two different criteria together, and you can use more than one to connect. That's a pretty high level kind of search.
I didn't know you could use more than one @ symbol.
Right, and so in version 12, it just does it all for you. So
and now maybe you were going to show this. Forgive me if I jumped ahead, but you can also do these analytics with more than one word, more than one example, right?
I haven't even played around with that much, but let's. Are you thinking about just doing a search for a phrase, or for?
Well, why not? Yeah, see what
phrase. Oh well, it's gonna. So let's do lexical forms. So agapao, and we're gonna search for theos, something like that. So let's look at the analytics there, and so what were you thinking of doing there, Rick?
Well, my brain's rusty now. We were doing
Okay.
these, in the demos, but I haven't, I haven't done one since I came
Yeah.
back
See,
from San Antonio.
Rick has the advantage of having been at ETS and SBL and having done thousands of demos in 2 weeks, right? So I appreciate that, Rick. But let me also show you, we have the ability now to perform some research analytics, which is really powerful. It allows us to not just look at one text, but look across multiple texts for these kinds of ideas. Let's just look at some English stuff here. So I've got, let's see, I've got here's just some English texts I've grouped together, and I'm just going to look for an English word. So let's just look for love here. So now I've performed in my research tab, I've performed a search for the word love in these Bibles, the NIV and the ESV and the Holman.
This is what I was actually thinking of, Mark.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So what this is doing is the same kind of thing that we were doing on a single text. Now we're doing it on a collection of texts. And so with the analytics here, I can say, let's look at a pie chart here. And actually, I did a bar chart. Let's do it. It's exactly the same information. I just like the pie chart better. I think it illustrates it a little nicer. So what it's doing now is an aggregate of love and how it's translated across the different texts. And I can click on the compare button here, and I can say, this is where it's really cool. Right now it's combined, but I can say, you know what, show me the NIV and the NASB and how they translate love from chesed or from, agape. So some interesting
differences
looks at that. Yeah. So and you can combine extra ones too to see the different ways in which they're translating those things. So this aggregate is interesting. That's just the English. Of course, it gets much cooler when you get into the original language text. So let's look at some Greek here and play around with that.
Look how fast that is, though. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, considering that it's not getting it from some predefined database somewhere. It's like on the fly generating this information. So let's do this. And it's so as long as it's in Greek, you can even compare it across different corpuses. So,
is that affected by the hardware that you're using it on? For example, if I'm using it on slow, older machine, will it be that very similar in that performance?
Probably pretty close. I mean, I'm using this on a MacBook Air. So it is the most recent MacBook Air, but it's not like Rick is going to show us the.
Well, I used the MacBook, just the MacBook nothing, for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And the first 2 or 3 days at ETS, I was doing demos on that with these new features, but because I had my MacBook Pro being shipped to me in San Antonio, so the first part of the conference, I was on the Mac, and I could still do these kinds of searches, and they were really fast.
Yeah.
But I always say Accordance has tight code.
Yeah, it does. That's good. Yeah, it really is. It's snappy. So what I'm doing right here is I'm looking at agapao and how often it's used in the different moods across the Greek New Testament compared to the Septuagint, and so I can see that it's used in the indicative in the New Testament, 73 times, but it's used much less frequently in the Septuagint, whereas as a participle, it's used not too frequently in the New Testament, but quite often in the Septuagint. So for people doing research, this is pretty incredible.
And you can do the shift click here too and open up all the instances.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, so pretty cool, pretty powerful. And
also, it's Pac-Man. That was pretty cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We also in version 11 we introduced the info pane. A lot of people, I think, still don't realize that it's there. One of the things we tried to do in version 11 was to work on accessibility, get all the things that you already have in Accordance presented to you in an efficient way, so you didn't have to go looking all over your library trying to find them. So the info pane was added in version 11, but we've enhanced it in version 12. So we've had commentaries before and cross references and topics. Now we have word lists. And we have study Bibles. We broke those out. They used to be a part of commentaries. If you have grammars, they're listed there too, and apparatuses. And so if you have any manuscript images, if you're, whatever location you're at in the text, it'll show you, in this case, the Leningrad Codex, the image there. So and I particularly like this word list. It's kind of cool. So let's go to, just like John 1 and see how that. The way the word list works is it's not just showing you the most frequently used word in the verse. Actually, I did John 1. That doesn't really matter, but let's just do John 1:1. What it's doing, if it was looking at the words used most often in the verse, you would have the, or and, or something like that. But what it's doing, in fact, you might think word would be the most the top level word when you're looking at the concentration, because it's used 3 times in this verse. But what it's doing is looking at how often the word is used in John compared with how often the word is used throughout the New Testament, and then deciding how they don't want me to say how important the word is, because that's up to you whether it's important or not. But it's how I guess unique or something the word is in this context compared to how it's being used across the whole, in this case, the whole New Testament, I guess. So so it puts beginning up there at the top, and so that's kind of interesting. And you can actually look at the original language words too, instead of just the English words themselves. So
or it works in Hebrew and Greek text too.
Yes, obviously, yeah. I usually show in English, but everything I'm showing you works in the original language too. And so if you have topics,
there's a concentration there in the word list, and that's a combo box. So what other options do you have there besides concentration?
Yeah, you can just do a plain count of which words are used the most often in alphabetical order. I don't really know why you would do that. But there you go. Okay. I know it's there. Maybe the programmers were like, we can do it, so why not? And and then just the order that they appear in the verse, and ignoring multiple words.
But just the way they're laid out there, I think of someone who's learning the language. I think that'd be very helpful. Like just how the
maybe having
the prefix there is separated out, in the first word there in Hebrew. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, right. Yeah, if you're a brand new Hebrew learner, you might be thinking that's all one word. So yeah.
Let me just say something to users of other Bible software. If you're thinking, I could never switch to accordance because I would miss the, for example, the guides in Logos. This is essentially the Logos guides. Or if you're in was it the preview pane? Is that what it's called in Olive Tree?
Yeah, isn't that? I think that's it.
And so all of them have this, and this is just the Accordance's version of this. So if you're thinking about switching to Accordance and you think, oh, I could never live without the Passage Guide,
but I think one advantage here over the Passage Guide is with Passage Guide you have to enter a text and then wait. Here, this is fluid. This content will change as fast as you can scroll through the text.
Well, you could do that. You can set up a pane and link it to a Passage Guide, and it'll dynamically update, but it's a little bit slower than that.
Yeah, it's much slower. Yeah.
And of course, anything you can click on any of these things and go directly to that text too. You can add, by default, it's going to show you 5 study Bibles, but you can show as many as you have in your library, or remove them too. So. Other little tweaks that are really cool. We now have in our preferences the ability to modify any keyboard shortcuts throughout the program. I know for me, when you copy text, it copies it exactly as it appears in the text in accordance. And so if you're looking at Hebrew in 36 point and you copy it into Word, it's going to be 36 point. But if you copy as a citation, you can set your citation preferences and say, I want it to be 12 points no matter what. I want you to get rid of all the superscripts, things like that. But copy as citation, I think, is normally like Command Option C or something like that, and you can just change it to be Command C, that kind of thing. So any of these things are user definable. So we don't really have a new paper or a new stack shortcut, but you can create one if you want. So that's pretty handy. And let's see some of the other things. Our timeline's been updated to have some really cool visual enhancements too.
And you did a lot of work on the timeline, didn't you, Mark?
Actually, yeah, I started it. I think David Lang has added a bunch of items too. So the look of the interface has been completely changed. And I didn't do anything with the updated styles of it, but yeah, I was working on adding some new some of the pharaohs and so forth. We have something now that's called the Photo Museum. We've had the Photo Guide for a long time, and that is something that connects with the Atlas, has some really good images, but even more importantly, some really good information on the different locations. But the Photo Museum is intended to be the same kind of thing for the timeline. So if you're, if you're looking at one of the pharaohs, you can double click on that, and if it's included in the Photo Museum, and most of them are, it'll give you some really good information on the individuals too. So
is that an upgrade from the Photo Guide, or
is
that just a totally different thing?
The Photo Museum is a totally different thing. So yeah, that's
and a lot of these images are ones you won't find anywhere else because we have people in Israel who have made connections in some of these museums where they don't allow you to take photographs. They got permission to take the photographs.
That's a shut up and take my money purchase.
Yeah.
And what I really appreciate about both the Photo Guide and the Photo Museum is that you're free to use these images. So and again, it's not just
you're free to use them in teaching and preaching settings.
Sure.
If you're going to use them in a commercial setting, you do need to get permission from the copyright holder.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's your fine print.
So I should cancel the T-shirts.
If you're going to be selling them.
I was.
Of course, if you have T-shirts and it says Accordance and has our website address on it, you're probably good to go. So, yeah, just
no.
And interesting
don't cancel the T-shirts.
Interesting trivia about the new timeline. It now goes to the year 2500, so that's very optimistic. But
so.
I do like the new timeline interface. It's very well done.
How well, Rick, does all of this run on your brand new MacBook?
Yeah, it just runs like a well-oiled machine.
Mark, is there anything else you wanted to show us? We probably ought to jump to Rick.
Yeah, no, those are the major features. So yeah, I've covered what I wanted to cover. We're good.
Cool. Hey, let me just give a kind of a plug. When I first got the Accordance 12 update, signed up for your class on, the new features, which you essentially did in sort of a mini form tonight with us. And Mark does a great job, as do all the trainers with Accordance. So if you go over to accordancebible.com and click on their support, then you will find a way to get in on these live seminars that you guys do. Is that what they call webinars? And they're free.
Called webinars. They're free. We do 4 or 5 a week usually. They're about an hour long on something very specific. And that's one reason I wanted to have Mark here tonight, because he's been teaching the What's New in 12.
Yeah, it's really good. And I was in his class on What's New, and he did a great job. And plus, if you get into one of those classes, you often get a little bit of a discount if you buy stuff after.
That's right.
And speaking of classes, coming up in January 28th, ABCNJ is hosting Accordance to come to do a training seminar in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And the trainer is going to be Rick.
What?
Who's the trainer going to be?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be.
It's going to be Rick. So you can sign up through Accordance's website. That's free. If you would like, if you're an ABCNJ pastor and you want continuing ed credit,
you might need to tell some people what that stands for.
ABCNJ is the American Baptist Churches of New Jersey, so we're kind of co-hosting this. And if you are an ABCNJ pastor, you get Academy credit if you sign up through our Eventbrite link, and we're buying you the base package. So So you can go for free, but
Nice.
if you pay just a little bit, we're going to
Yeah.
give you some software.
And I think we're going to have like an offer you can't refuse kind of deal on upgrading to a higher package, but you'll at least have the basic package.
Yes.
Cool. Well, I think that's awesome, and I love the fact that you guys give this away. You know, I will say that other software companies do not, and some of them charge through the nose. So, thank you.
Yeah, we do have a new light version that can be downloaded if someone just wants to check out Accordance. And
Well, I mean
has
the
most of the
training
features.
you give away. That's what I was talking about. The training.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
It would be
I've
really
always
cool
felt-
if you gave away all those photo guides and those museums.
Yeah,
and-
well, yeah, but
I
then
want
we'd go
the
out of business.
museum.
But you know, I've always felt, you know, this is my philosophy, and I think it's the company's philosophy overall, that if our users know how to use the software, you know, very well, that they will continue to support it. And that's, so it's kind of a give and take. And you know, I feel like Accordance overall is very intuitive, especially compared to some of our competitors. However, you know, any Bible software program worth its salt is a very complex program. Has lots of features, will do lots of things, and so, you know, the more time you put into it, the more you can do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool.
Especially on a MacBook Pro.
Well, tell us about.
That's
Okay,
a great
so-
segue, Rick.
So this was going to be my favorite thing tonight. I don't know if the rest of you are going to be doing favorite things too, and unfortunately I can't like pick it up and show it to you because I'm actually broadcasting through it here. But you know, I've spent the last year and a half using, you know, again, what we call the MacBook Nothing. It was that 12-inch Retina screen MacBook. Not the MacBook Air, not the MacBook Pro. And what's funny was, you know, that one was smaller than a MacBook Air. And I bought that computer. I went from a 1512 MacBook Pro, which was a good machine. I went to that little 12-inch MacBook because I was doing a lot of travel for the company. And, you know, it's much easier to carry a smaller laptop, you know, plus an iPad, plus, you know, whatever you're carrying around. But where that machine had not worked, it was fine with Accordance, I should say. But, you know, I also do a lot of video editing, and it was miserable on video editing. I couldn't run programs really like Premiere, Final Cut Pro, which I had both of. I was using iMovie and Camtasia for the last year primarily, which are fine, but they won't do everything that you want them to do. And rendering would take a long time on that. So anyway, I had been waiting for new MacBook Pros, you know, for Apple to announce these, and so I went back to the 15-inch MacBook Pro, and you know, just of course everyone's read reviews by now if you keep up with this kind of stuff at all. You know, a big concern was the keyboard, because on that 12-inch MacBook, you know, that was that first generation. What do they call the technology for that keyboard?
Butterfly.
Switch. I hated that.
I thought that I liked it at first. I mean, I said, no, I think I like this. I think I'm going to get used to it. But what I found over time was that I made lots of mistakes. There were lots of corrections that I had to do. And even though the Mac now has autocorrect, to me, you have to turn that off on a laptop, because you'll end up with things inserted in there later on that you didn't realize were inserted in there, and if you've already sent that off, it's anyway. That keyboard I did not like at all. I was a little bit concerned because they said this was a second generation Butterfly whatever keyboard. My evaluation of this new keyboard is that it's usable. That's not a stellar evaluation, but the previous one, I primarily used an external keyboard with it because to me, it wasn't overly usable except in a pinch. This one is usable. I don't make the mistakes on it. Do I like it as much as Apple's old keyboards? Like, you know, for instance, the one that was on the 2012 MacBook Pro. No, I like that one much better, but we don't have that one anymore. And so this one is whatever they did to it, I don't make the mistakes on this that I did on the other.
It's got a little more travel distance, just a little
does.
bit. I think the mistakes are because the keys are still too big.
Yeah, that could be. But you know what I had happen on the other one a lot of times is, you know, I would have missing I would have missing letters sometimes, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
you had to hit it with a certain amount of strength to get it down. But if you really did that, your typing was very loud for a coffee shop or something like that, and your fingers were sore at the end of the day.
It was like
You know?
tapping glass. It really was.
Yeah, it really was. So I think, and so I talk about that because I think that that's a lot of folks, big concern about this. The other big concern are the ports. It's USB-C only. I've got 4 USB-C ports. The USB was not an issue for me because that MacBook had USB-C, and so I've been using that for the last year and a half. However, what's nicer about this is having 4 instead of just 1. And so I even had to kind of retrain myself because I would have, like, if I was connected to an external monitor or if I was connected to a projector, and I had that adapter hanging out of there. I was used to plugging the power cord into the adapter because they have a little place for the power. Well, actually, I don't have to do that now. I can plug it in wherever I want. And this seems like such a stupid thing, but even like sitting in the recliner the other night, I had the cord wrapped around, kind of awkwardly like I used to do with the MacBook. And I realized, wait a minute, I can plug this into the other side because the power cord can go in any of those 4 ports. It's great. And maybe when Kevin posts this podcast, he can post that link. There's a great article about how versatile this machine is. It says it's an ultimate hacker's device. I don't know about that or not because I'm not hacking anything on it. But there's so many things that you can do with these ports. And I can remember back in the day when we moved from the old serial ports, or what I can remember, or the old Apple. What were the ADB ports?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, moved from those to USB. You had to get whole new devices. Yeah, there were some adapters you could buy from third parties, but they didn't always work right, and you had to have drivers.
Yeah.
So you had to buy all new devices. With this, my external drives and everything, all I've had to do is buy new cables. I don't even have to do that. I can get the adapters for that. But what I've done is I've gone on to Amazon.com. A company called Cable Matters sells cables very inexpensively, usually like $8 or $9. And so I've replaced, like, my Time Machine backup, even this, the power cord to my Yeti that's right here that I'm speaking through, that uses a mini B adapter. So I got a little mini B adapter to USB-C cable, not adapter, just mini B to USB-C cable.
Mm-hmm.
I just replaced the cable. I didn't replace the device, and that's been really nice about moving to this machine. The screen is great, but it's a Retina screen. Once I went to Retina screens with the 2012 MacBook Pro, I couldn't go back to the other kind of, like, occasionally when I'd use my wife's MacBook Air, I just, the screen you could see such a difference.
Fuzz, really.
Yeah, fuzz. The trackpad is very large. I still don't know the purpose of having the trackpad this large. Maybe there's some feature that's going to come out. However, big concern was, well, if you're up here typing, do I bump that and mess things up? I haven't had that happen yet at all. I think Apple's programmed in what do you call it?
Palm rejection.
Palm rejection. Yeah. So I haven't had any issues with that. And of course, then the other big feature of this toolbar was the touch bar. Well, there's really 2 parts to that. Before I get to the touch bar, the other thing is the fingerprint reader. The fingerprint reader is great. They had just recently added to, I think it was to Sierra, where you could log into your Mac with your Apple Watch. And that's very cool. You feel very Jetty-like to just come up and do that. But I'm not sure how secure that is. I like this much better, and I don't even have that turned on for the watch to do this. I just come in and I can do this with my fingerprint to do that. And lots of other computers do that too. But the other added thing is Apple Pay, and passwords are in some places, not every place yet, but I think that it'll kind of become ubiquitous after a while. But you go to pay, rather than typing in a password or something like that, you can just you'd ask for your fingerprint. So that's very handy. That's really nice. And then the touch bar itself, everyone was concerned about the escape key being gone, and that. Look, it's right here. And what I found is that even though Apple doesn't put this escape, it's a virtual escape button, even though they don't put it flush with the left edge there, because they're doing this balance thing since you have the fingerprint reader on the right. And I don't know why they think that's necessary, but anyway, if you touch the section even to the left of it, like where the escape key would normally be, it still acts as an escape key. And so most Apple apps and a few third-party apps like Pixelmator and some of these are already starting to add these virtual toolbars on here. I'll tell you what I use and I don't use. I have yet to use, if you're in a word processing tool or like Pages or something like that, which I don't use Pages that much anymore, but I'm not going to use this for bold and italic and that kind of thing, because I'm just used to doing the keyboard shortcuts with that anyway. But it's handy for styles, which I think we talked about. It's also where I have really used it is in photographs, for leveling out a picture. That's just it's very intuitive just to put your finger there and just move that back and forth, as opposed to using a mouse or the trackpad or something like that.
Hey, Rick, you had
yes.
mentioned styles. How does that work for styles? Because styles, the list is a vertical and the bar is horizontal.
Well, it will have, if I remember correctly, because I just played with this a little bit, and I think we've talked about on here before, about 2 years ago, I went back to Microsoft Word, and it's not implemented for that yet. But if it works like Pages, if I remember correctly, I think what it does is it gives you some of your most recent ones, and you can also scroll through them if you're finding something that you haven't used, very often. The other place is video editing. It's much more not even video editing, but video playing. I mean, if you're watching a YouTube video, this works. To pause or to move to what do you call it, the not insertion point,
the playhead.
Yeah, thank you. To move the playhead to just, it makes much more sense to do that with your finger than to, again, take a mouse or even a trackpad and position a pointer into a particular place and do all of that. That works much better with a finger. And so, to me, the touch bar isn't the, it's not the second coming, okay, obviously, but it's going to be very helpful in certain apps. Even the calculator app, which I use a lot, you've got the basic plus, minus, multiplication, division buttons right there above the numbers. And so that's really nice. It's not maybe as nice as a numeric keypad if you do a lot of number crunching, but still having those right there close together is a really nice feature. So some things it's great for, some things I won't miss. It's not a killer feature though. And to me, I go back to that 2012 MacBook Pro. To me, the Retina screen was a killer feature in that I could not go back to another kind of computer after using that. Touch bar, the touch bar, it's great. It's helpful in a lot of places. But I mean, if I had to go to a Mac today that didn't have that, and in fact, I do a lot of my work during the day with an external keyboard anyway, because I have my MacBook Pro up high. But it's not that kind of essential once you start using it. Maybe it will be after a while, but it's not there yet.
Rick, the standard old function keys, like I have stuff for brightness and to control spaces, contrast, that sort of thing. Can you still access those features?
You can. So there is taking a name from the old classic Mac. You have a control strip, and I hit that control strip, and it pops out just like the old control strip used to do. Although
really?
I think I used to
control strip on the touch bar.
Yes. And so right now I hit that button, and you can't see it. I'm sorry, but I've got brightness. I've got whatever those little
back in OS 7.6.3 or whatever it is.
I've got play and pause. I've got fast forward. I've got volume controls. Volume control is really cool too, because I can just keep my finger down here and I can adjust that volume without having to then pick it up. I thought that I would have to do that, but no, you can just keep your finger down there and do that. If you need the actual function keys, all you have to do is press on the FN key, and the function keys come up.
Cool. What about power? Is that just under the fingerprint reader to power down or to force power down? To see your computer.
I see what you're saying.
See your computer hangs and you get a forced power down. Not that that ever happens on Macs, but
of course not. But the you know, one thing that's weird about this computer is that if you shut it down, you can shut it down, but when you shut it down, if you have closed it and then you open it, it automatically starts booting up. It reminds me, if you've ever, I never had one of these, but I played with one of those, the old portable Mac before the PowerBook. It had a lead acid battery in it, and the thing never actually completely shut down. It was always running at a low level. I don't know if this is necessarily doing that, but like I said, when you open the lid,
wouldn't that be illegal to take on a plane?
Yeah, I'm sure. It would be today, I'm sure. But yeah, if you need to force quit, you just hold down on that fingerprint reader. But I don't know. I think I've only had to do that maybe once.
Yeah, I mean, I do it once in a blue moon.
Yeah,
it does happen. So I need to know if I can still do that.
Yeah, you can definitely still do that.
Unplug it and wait till the battery drains. No, see, that's not good. I need to be able to shut the dang thing down.
Yeah.
So good. Okay, cool. You've answered questions for me.
Yeah, and you know, the only weird thing I had was, in fact, this was a frustration in San Antonio. I had an issue with Bluetooth devices, like an external mouse or an external keyboard, that they would suddenly lock up, and it might be for 5 seconds or 10 seconds, or it might be for 60 seconds, and you just didn't know. And so, you know, if you're doing a demo, that's where you turn and you start talking to the person and you know, explaining concepts of how papers would be used or something like that, and then wait for it to come back. That was I don't know if that was a universal problem with the MacBook Pros, but I was running a beta of the next version of Sierra, and they came out with an update to that, and it fixed that problem. So
that sounds like a power management. Was screwed
so
up.
I don't know if that was specific to the MacBook Pro or if that happened to other people running the beta. I don't know.
Very good.
But that's the only problem I've had. It worried me at first though, because when both the mouse and the external keyboard locked up, I thought, oh, I've got a bad Bluetooth chip in this MacBook Pro. I mean, that's logically what you would think, but fortunately that wasn't it.
Interesting.
Any other questions? No,
I like it. But you're in touch. The touch bar is impressive, but nowhere near a killer feature.
To me, it's not a killer feature yet. You know, like I said, I think it'll improve. You know, even the touch bars that they have now are 1.0s. You know, so I think that will improve. And there's already some pretty cool hacks if you want to have your favorite or most used apps on there, or something like that. Or you know, there's even like a Doom game that you can play in the touch bar. I don't know who'd want to do that.
There's a what?
Yeah, Doom. You can play Doom from the in the touch bar.
This is someone with far too much time on there.
Yeah, I agree. But and I don't like to put hacks like that on my machine, because I think that's just asking for trouble. But it's nice, like I said, especially for video, for photos. Some of the other things may come along. The images for, like, if you're in Safari and it's got like a little mini image of each of your tabs that you have open, that's useless to me, because I can't look at that tab and see what it is. It makes much more sense to me to actually look at the name on the tab on the screen.
Okay, gotcha.
How's the battery life on it?
It stinks like all laptops do. I think I said on here a few weeks ago that, you know, I get like anywhere from 4 to 6 hours of battery life, and that's still true. This has the maximum battery capacity that Apple can put on a laptop, and you can still legally fly with it. But I've always said I wish Apple would put a few $1 billion into improving battery technology overall, because to me, I'm using this machine. I don't want to reduce the brightness. I don't want to turn off, Bluetooth or Wi-Fi all these things, all these little hacks that you do to squeeze more battery life out of it. And so I generally get about 5 or 6 hours. That's true even when I was using the MacBook. That was true when I was using the MacBook Pro before it. It's been true on Windows machines. My Acer gets 4 or 5 hours. But that's, again, because I'm not turning everything down when I use it.
4 to 6.
Yeah, probably closer to 5. But I mean, I haven't done any scientific. I haven't timed it. Most of the time, I have it plugged in.
Usually, Apple's
Yeah.
battery ratings are pretty accurate, and they're saying
Well,
9 or 10.
Well, but I mean, it's again, it's with the
That's
screen
if you're
right,
setting it for a unplugged profile.
They
Well,
have
by
very
comparison-
specific
they put the
parameters that they
screen
put
down.
on it, and I'm not doing those.
Well, let me just compare. I just bought the Lenovo Yoga 910, and they advertised 9 to 10 hours of battery life. And it has a Kaby Lake Intel Core i7 processor, and I run it at about 85% brightness with Bluetooth turned on and Wi-Fi turned on. And today, it got me a good 9 hours.
Maybe it's the extra power used to light up this touch bar.
Maybe. That stuns me that it's that weak.
Well, I mean, it's
compared to
no,
there.
I mean, they haven't done anything to improve the battery from previous machines. Like I said, they've been maxed out for a while. All you can do is get the processors to use the power better, those kinds of things. But I still end up with about the same.
And I know you run parallels a lot too, right? So
Yeah.
definitely,
well,
if you're
definitely killing the battery at
that's going to
that.
kill it for sure.
But the cool thing that one of the first tests I ran on this, when I got it in San Antonio and I got it all set up and I had parallels on there, because one of the things that I was kind of in charge of was running a Windows accordance station at ETS and SBL, and so after I got this set up, I kind of replaced the Acer. I put the Acer under the table and I got this out and I was running parallels. And so at one time I set up equivalent setups. I had both the Mac OS and Windows running in parallels. I had Accordance running in both. I had Word running in both. I had Nota Bene, a little academic processor, running in both, to do demos, to show different things according to who the customer was. And I think I had the website. I had both Edge open in Windows and I had Safari open on the Mac to the Accordance website. And I pulled up Activity Monitor, and I was only using 8% of the computer's power. It was just I had 92% of my resources free, and so it's rare that I have the fans come on this machine.
It's wonderful having a maxed out machine, Rick. Isn't it?
It's really nice.
All right.
Okay. All right. So, anyone else doing a favorite thing?
I got one. I know Kevin's holding something up.
Oh, you want me to talk about this? I was just reading the box.
What do you got there, Kev?
Go ahead and do yours. I'll let you do yours.
Well, mine's easy. And I showed it I've been talking to you guys about it for a while, but on Black Friday, I picked up screens for iOS because it was on sale for half off. So I ended up spending $10. But this essentially allows me to go to my Mac from my iPad. And I've had stuff like this in the past where I had it on my 9.7. I think I had...
what was the one that came out in the early days of the iPad?
Yeah, it was... I forget what it is. It was like Screencast or something like that.
Mark, I remember us using it at that Accordance conference that we had in Texas.
I was trying to remember the name of it, but
I didn't like it, and part of it was because I thought it was just unreliable, and the other part of it was that the 9.7-inch screen, it just wasn't good enough. And so this is on the MacBook Pro on the 12.9. Suddenly, OS 10 is almost usable. And so I've actually used it a couple times where I'll leave my Mac is upstairs and I need to get something. I need to throw something in Dropbox from a folder that I don't have, or I need to put something from an external drive into my iCloud drive or something like that. And I just open up screens and I manipulate stuff around and off it goes. And
would it work off site, like if you're sitting at a Starbucks?
Yes, it does work off site. I have done that. I was working at Starbucks last week, and I was like, "Oh, I need something," and I had
not
left
as
my
a
bag at
barista.
home.
You were working on your sermon.
I was working on my sermon, yes, yeah. And I actually needed something, so I opened up and I was working at Starbucks. I had my VPN on, and I was coming into my into my MacBook that was at home, and it worked beautifully. And I guess I had put. Did you ever read that blog post I put up, Rick? You can say no. But my primary use case for my primary use case for it that I see is that if I'm traveling, I can leave my Mac at home with my Lightroom library drive plugged in on the MacBook, and I can upload photos from my DSLR onto my iPad. I can filter them down, throw them into Lightroom Mobile, let them sync, and after they sync, I actually can sit there from remotely, and I can open up screens, open up Lightroom back on my MacBook, and organize the photos exactly where I want them to be, so that when I get home from wherever I'm traveling, they're already done. I don't have.
Let me ask you this question. I assume that it would work with like the Apple keyboard cover. It's on your
it works.
iPad.
It works with the keyboard cover. Yep.
What would be awesome? I'm guessing they don't do this yet, but what would be awesome is if they figured out a way to make a mouse work with it.
They do.
They do.
Not a mouse, but what you can do is that there is a plugin. It's $2. I haven't bought it yet, where you can use a second iOS device as a trackpad.
Okay.
So I could actually sit there with my iPhone open, and I could use that as the trackpad to make it go through. So yeah, they have worked on that. You can't use an external Bluetooth mouse, but the fact that you can use that,
you can't slide your phone around the table.
I cannot slide my phone around the table. There actually were apps a long time ago that allowed you to do that. Yeah,
Apple may have shut them down
using the camera. But I think that's really cool. And for me, it's $10. It's called, let me get the actual file name. The thing that you run on your computer to allow you to access it externally is called Screens Connect. Most routers will allow you it'll basically use universal plug and play. For whatever reason, I was having problems doing that, so I had to configure mine manually. But it works fine.
So I have a server at home. I could do this with my home server.
Correct. Part of me, we have a server at ABCNJ. I use back to my Mac to connect.
Is it this?
It's Screens VNC.
It's actually $20.
Well, no, I got it on sale for $10. That's why I bought it. I was like, $10, I'm buying that.
Well, I just wanted to make that clear.
Right, and now that I'm using it, it's totally worth it. And I had picked up the desktop app a long time ago. So I'm actually thinking of switching over to Screens VNC, the Screens Connect for the server at the office, because I just think it's better. The other cool thing is that you can, if you're really worried about security, you can set it up to create the connection via a shared encryption key. So you put the private key on your remote device, and you put the public key on the device you're connecting into, and that all gets set up, and it's really cool. I like it.
Does it only work on one Mac at a time?
I'm not sure what the licensing is. I know you can buy it through the Mac App Store, so you can can use the Mac App Store version. I have it individual.
Is it still $30 in the Mac App Store?
I'm not sure. And Screens Connect is actually free. So if you're not going to use it as the remote access point, you can set up Screens Connect and put that as a helper app that run on the external, or the thing that's staying at home. So to me, it's really helpful if you have a MacBook Pro, and if you have an iPad Pro, and you sometimes would wish you could access your full Mac while you're out and about, and you just want to carry your Pro around. This is something that's really worth looking at.
Does it require a Pro? Like the
No, it doesn't. But I think the 12.9-inch screen is a lot better for that than the 9.7. That's why I didn't like whatever. I think it was it Swift? It was something like that. And I had it, and it was slow, and it was running on an iPad too. But the smaller screen, it was just painful to use, and the bigger screen real estate changes the whole interface. I mean, using Lightroom is usable.
We are
it's the longest show
ever.
20 minutes over.
Well, you can edit out a bunch of stuff now.
Yeah, we'll cut it down.
I was going to show you this. I got the new Olloclip for iPhone 7.
Oh, sweet.
And if you don't know what that is, it covers over the camera lens, and so it then gives you these extra lenses This is the core lens set for $99.99. If you're just an average iPhone user, it's not worth that price. But if you're really, really into taking pictures with your iPhone, I think it's definitely worth it. I love the fisheye effect and the macro effect. It's also got a super wide, which is nice. I took some photos with it.
Let me see one of the super wide.
Well, hang on. Let me go back here.
He wants to show off his macros.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is one thing you posted. I still am not sure what that is.
Yeah, well, let me just go through these here real quick. This is your iPhone using the 2x
Telephoto,
zoom.
okay.
Okay, this is iPhone using the 1x regular camera. This is the super wide.
That's nice. Distortion's not too bad either.
Not too bad. And then, of course, this is the fisheye lens.
I don't see any distortion at all.
No.
No, that looks normal.
That's
Anyway.
exactly.
We'll get out of
what
there.
was that?
Yeah, yuck. These are some macro shots of the strap on my computer bag and the hinge on my Lenovo Yoga. This is a drop of water from my soda cup on the table.
Okay. You know, that almost
Another
looked
one.
like fabric when you first posted that on Slack.
Yeah, it
today.
did.
So that's
I
you
like.
can see the pattern of the table right there.
But really good detail. And
So-
I'm seeing this over Google Hangouts. So
Yeah. And so it looks pretty good. Let me go back, and I've got some other shots that kind of give you an idea. This is the native iPhone camera, just a shot of my bricks. And this is the super wide.
that's some nice looking bricks.
But this shot shows you what your native camera. So that's the super wide lens.
Okay.
And so you can see, you know, like over here, you get this little tree.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But if this is the native camera, so that shows you how much you're getting.
Wow.
Same thing here with my backyard, looking at the trees behind the house. So you can even see our church cemetery over here with the super wide. So I like it. It's pretty nifty. Olloclip has an app, which is horrible. Don't bother with it. In order to use the lenses over top of the 2x camera, you can't use the built-in camera. You have to get an app that lets you manually select the 2x camera, and you know there's tons of those in the App Store. If that's what you're wanting to do, you know, add the effects to that. But Olloclip, this is the core lens set. They also have here. This is the active lens set, which is a little bit more, and it's got a 2x telephoto lens, along with an ultra wide, which is even wider than the super wide, but not as wide as a fisheye lens.
Did you happen to mention about how it works with the two lenses on the iPhone 7 Plus?
I just did.
I just wasn't paying attention, I guess. I must have zoned out. It's after 10 o'clock.
You need
if
an
you
app.
want to use the second lens, you can, first of all, what you got to do is, let me show you this. It's now modular, okay, which is really cool. The lens attachment pops out. This is the part that goes on your phone.
Kev, your screen's not sharing, bud.
Oh, I'm sorry. How did that get turned off? I wonder.
That's my role today. I just tell people when their screen's not sharing.
Mine hasn't been sharing at all for some reason.
Well, it's very strange that it just quit, and that happened to you, Mark, a number of times. Didn't it? Okay, so this part it's modular. This part right here is what attaches to the phone, and then the lens fits inside here. So like you snap this in,
so you can flip it.
Okay, it's got a little pin right there that goes in that hole. There's a pin on that side that goes in that hole, and that way. So let's say they redesign the iPhone next year with a
that's
whole
what I was
new
about to ask.
shape. Then all you need is this piece, right?
That's nice.
Okay.
I like that.
So
If you have a
Because
case,
that's why I don't ever buy these.
Yeah, because you have to replace it every 2 years.
well, I don't buy them either. I get them for review units, fortunately.
So, Kev,
but,
if you put that 2x on the 2x lens or the camera, then you've basically got a 4.
right, it's not. It doesn't totally work that because it's a little bit pulled away from the camera, but you'd have to then
That would be
rotate
more
this.
Okay.
You have to rotate that over a little bit. And so like you turn this thing, and so this pin would go in that hole, but you have to use a different app. You cannot use the built-in iOS camera app. For some reason, it won't let you. When you hit that 2x button, it still just doesn't work. You have to find an app that lets you manually select the 2x lens. I don't know why. It's something Apple's doing that's weird, and Olloclip just says just find a different app. But don't use their app because their app is horrible. So, but I love these. They also have a handy little, thing. It comes in with this. I don't know what they call this. I can't remember. There's the term that they use for it. But anyway, it now opens to turn into like a V kickstand kind of thing. So that it'll hold your camera, and it works okay. I'd much rather have a different. I've got other iPhone tripods that I'd much rather use, so I don't use it for that. I just use it to, it also comes with a little hook that you can hook onto either on your bag. I put it on a little loop that hangs off my computer bag, or you can, if you want, you can put it on your belt loop or key ring or something like that. So anyway, that's the 120 is for the one with the telephoto lens, and then they have here we go. This is the macro set, and it's got a 14x macro, a 7x macro if you screw the lens off, and then they have a 21x macro.
Wow,
nice
as well, and that's going to be pretty cool. So if you come down and look at, let's see. Here's some of the sample images. You can see the macro.
Very nice. Go to 21.
There's the 21x right there.
Ooh, good detail.
It's actually a beautiful. So you can do some real interesting, creative kinds of things. I love this picture of the eyeball. That's just amazing. It's kind of hard sometimes to get a crisp image. Because you're holding it so close, and so if you're trying to handhold it, it's a little bit difficult. Yeah. But wow, I mean, these are great shots. I have not taken anything this beautiful yet. See, I still have hope. But that's the Olloclip, and
but that's nice. We've quoted that phrase many times. The best camera is the one that you've got with you, and that's most often our phones. Yep. And that's something that you can throw in your pocket too.
Yeah.
And I almost exclusively take pictures with my phone, my iPhone or my Pixel. I almost never have a regular camera anymore because the pictures I get are as good or better. Yeah, I've got a better zoom lens on my camera, but most of the pictures I'm taking, I can zoom with my feet. So.
Yep. All right, Mark, do you have a favorite thing?
Well, I guess I'll talk about something that I've been using recently, which is, let's see, my camera. It's a case for my iPhone, since we're talking about iPhones here right now. It's called the Quadlock system. Don't know if you've heard of that before, but I do a lot of bicycling and a little bit of running, but mostly bicycling. And this system allows you to, it comes with a mount for your handlebars. And so you can just twist the phone right onto your handlebars, and the case is a really nice high quality case that feels good in your hand. It looks like it might not be with that sort of weird indentation in the back, but because it's more low profile than it probably looks, it feels pretty good in your hand.
It reminds me of a Microsoft Lumia phone.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and so it's just an iPhone with that, and so I just snap it onto my handlebars, and I end up using Strava or some of the different apps that allow you to measure your distance and so forth. And it's a system, so not only does it have the adapters for handlebars on your bike, they've got the straps that go around your arm, and it's got a little thing that you snap on there. You can get the little suction cup thing that goes on in your car on your windshield, and so I've got one of those, and I can just snap it right onto to my windshield. So, so wherever I go, I'm able to use my phone. It comes with a. I really would like. This is where I haven't been tempted to get a new phone. This is the 6, but because I do a lot of mountain biking, having a waterproof phone would be nice. This does come with a little plastic cover in case it rains. You can put on top of it, but it'd be nice to have a waterproof phone. But I've been using this now for about, I guess, 6 months, and it's been working really well. I've even crashed on my mountain bike a bunch of times, and it's been okay. My daughter asked me.
I'm worried about you crashing a bunch of times.
My daughter. I'm coming home with bruises all the time. My daughter
driving
asked,
drunk or something. Or?
No, it's just how I'm just that good of a mountain biker. My daughter asked me, "Dad, do all mountain bikers crash as much as you do?" And I was like, "No, probably not." But
so they have these cases though for the newer phones.
They do, yeah.
Do they have them for more than the iPhone?
They do. They've been around for several years, so you can go back. Okay. They've got them for the older iPhones and for all the major brands of Android phones. And so I don't know about. I haven't looked to see if they've got like the Pixel, but they're really good about coming out with cases as soon as the new top level phones come out. So I'm sure they do. So Quadlock is the name of it. So yeah, I recommend it. I've really liked it. So.
Cool. All right. Well, I think this may be in the records book for the longest Theotek ever.
It is definitely.
But I think it's a good show. I imagine we'll have some good response because we usually do when we have Bible software. So between accordance and some of these discussions we've had, that's 4 good things. So
Bible software and Apple.
Yeah. So Kevin, give us our normal log off with all the places that people can find Theotek.
You people don't want to watch this thing, so don't ever bother. I won't mess with tell you anything. No, go to Theotek.com is the easiest and simplest way to find out where to get Theotek podcast, whether you want to watch it on YouTube, listen to it on your device, radio, your iPhone, your tablet, your computer, whatever. That's the quickest and simplest way to get to it. When you do finally find our YouTube page through Theotek.com, please subscribe. And we're not really doing live shows anymore. We're recording and then uploading. It's just Google really just kind of stinks. So that's my reasoning. But that's it.
Okay. And we'll be back. We'll be back next week for
2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks for what's our theme? Stocking
stuffers.
Tech stocking stuffers, and that will be our last show of 2016. By the way,
we'll put it to bed. Put 2016 in the ground.
Hopefully not the last.
I don't know what that means. Anyway. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Right.
Yeah,
Good night.
thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you big time, buddy.
You bet. It's been great. Thank you.
Good night.